Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a review on two new NYX products. I'm going to be talking today about the NYX HD blushes and then the NYX high voltage lipsticks. NYX recently has released a lot of new stuff, a lot of new exciting things, and I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on their stuff. I feel like with NYX, they're one of the brands that overall for the price point is pretty good. They have a great range of products, a really great shade selection, and every once in a while they just release a product that's phenomenal. It blows everybody away. The texture is great, the price point is great, the color selection is great. It's just a real winner. And then they tend to release products every once in a while that I just don't think are all that great at all. And so I think the brand overall, while I would say it's pretty good, it is sometimes inconsistent. And with NYX, it's, you know, a little bit hit or miss. When you find those great products, they're fantastic, holy grails. But when you find those bad products, they're very kind of mediocre. But all my blabbing aside, let's get into the products. So I only own one of each of these because I am always skeptical with new products to try more than one. On one side, it's kind of nice to get a good feel, you know, if there's different textures between different shades. But on the other hand, if you happen not to like the product, you're stuck with tons of the same product that you're not very in love with. So I just decided to pick up one of each, knowing that NYX can be very hit or miss. Let's start with the blush. So like I said, this is the HD high definition blush. I have this in the shade Amber. This was the shade that spoke most to me. It's just a very nice kind of dusty mauve-y shade, kind of like a good everyday blush shade. One thing I will say about these is it is important that you kind of swatch them, because I find that the way they look in the pan isn't the way that they translate on the skin. I think in the pan this looks very terracotta kind of colored, looks very, very deep, looks like something that on my fair skin would be way too harsh. But when you swatch it, it's very, very soft, and I find that the color just kind of transforms and it turns more into kind of a, I mean, it's still got the same hue, I just think it turns a lot more kind of pinky peachy than it does like a true kind of terracotta color. I don't know if that's coming across, but it's just very light, and I think it's a little bit more bright when swatched than it is in the pan. As you can see, there is a lot of kick up, a lot of powderiness with these. They are very, very smooth and very silky feeling. But with that creamy of a texture, I just find that this blush is sometimes hard to work with because it's really hard to get product on your brush and not all over in the air. It's almost so fine and so silky that your brush just doesn't pick up anything. You really have to stamp your brush in there. And when you tap off the excess, you kind of have to like tap it into the brush, if that makes sense. So like for example, if I'm going to take some of the product, I want to literally just press my brush into there, and then when I pick it up, I kind of want to tap it like this so that the product falls into the brush and doesn't just fall everywhere else. So that's a little bit annoying. I wouldn't think that these would be good to travel with at all because they are so, I don't know, they just seem so soft. It just seems like as soon as you drop this thing, it would shatter into a million different pieces. So there's that to it. I don't think the packaging is the best. I think the packaging looks very cheap. It just, I don't know, just the plain plastic with the little bow. It looks like NYX packaging, but every once in a while I just find that their packaging looks a bit better, and this to me just feels like very cheap, very flimsy packaging. But as for the actual product, I think that other than the slight texture issue, when it's on the skin, it is very beautiful. It adds a great flush, and it's very skin-like. It just looks like you're glowing from within. It does not look powdery at all on the skin. And the nice thing about these two is that they're talc-free, so a lot of people who tend to break out from blushes, bronzers, etc. are really going to like these because you don't have that added ingredient, which does tend to clog a lot of pores. So I really like that about it. I think the shade range is very, very nice. I think the shade Amber is one of those shades that could work well on anybody because you could build it up to be a very, very deep shade, but if you apply it lightly, it's just kind of like a nice bright rosy color, and I really, really like that about it. Like I said, the texture of it on the skin, it feels great. I just wish that you could get that texture without the messiness of the product, but I feel like the look on the skin is worth the compromise. It's also not very expensive. I think that these are around like $6, and I definitely prefer them over the regular NYX blushes. I know a lot of people really like those. I am just not a huge fan. I think that they look kind of powdery on the skin, and that's what I like about these, is that they almost look creamy on the skin. They just don't look like powder blush. So if you have drier skin, I think you're really going to like this, but at the same time, if you have oilier skin, this is still a powder, so it's still going to hold up very nicely. I also find that these wear a very nice amount of time, so they just kind of have a lot of good stuff going on besides the texture issue. And if you can just get by the fact that these are so breakable and that they are just so delicate, I think you'll really like these. Now let's talk about the high voltage lipstick. I got mine in the shade Flutter Kiss, which is number 05. It's a very typical Kylie shade. We have all seen me haul these shades a million and one times. They're just kind of like the good goes to rosy mauvey nudes. I just really like these colors, and whenever a new collection is released, lipstick wise, I always tend to gravitate towards these colors because for me, it's a really good way to really get a good feel for the formulation, because I have so many lipsticks that are this color that I like, and it's just a color that I know I'll wear a lot, so I can really test it out a lot. I'll do a swatch of this on the back of my hand. First thing, these are insanely pigmented. I mean, they are very, very creamy. One swipe, you get full color, and I think that this shade is gorgeous. I think that it has a little bit of kind of a gray purple undertone, if that makes sense, and it makes it a little bit more different than your typical mauve shades, just because it seems to have something that's just very muted and, like I said, almost gray about it. So if you're kind of into that cashmere lip, I think that this is sort of a cool way to do it, where it's not as gray and as deathly looking. There is a bit more color, but regardless, I mean, the shade is really pretty. The formulation of this is very interesting. It's, like I said, very creamy, very pigmented, but at the same time, it's very, very thin on the lips. And I'm not probably going to be able to show that much from the swatch, but it just doesn't have a whole lot of stick. It doesn't really have a whole lot of hold to it. So when it's on your lips, I find that within a matter of an hour, it seems to completely disappear, and you don't really have much lipstick going on. And I guess for me, I just find that a little bit annoying because I don't want to constantly touch up. And the other thing that I find about these is that they're not exactly moisturizing. For something that's as shiny, as buttery, as, I don't know, just that kind of a feeling to it. It's not a matte lipstick. I would expect this to be a lot more hydrating than it actually is. I find that throughout the day, when I have to reapply this all the time, I'm not applying a lip balm, my lips just get dry. So I don't love that about it. I don't love that it's not super long wearing. I think the colors are gorgeous, and I like the fact that you do get a lot of instant color payoff. You're not having to build it up and build it up. I just think that the formulation needs to be a little bit more hydrating, and I think it just needs to be a little bit thicker so it actually adheres to the lips. And I just feel like in a matter of, like I said, an hour or two, this thing is completely faded off, and I really don't have a whole lot of color left, and I'm just not somebody who likes high maintenance lip products. I'm not a huge lip product person in general. I tend to buy a lot of lip products because I think they're pretty, but I have a really hard time wearing them because I don't always love the feeling of them on my lips, and if they're not long wearing, then I kind of think, what's the point? I don't want to just have pretty lips for an hour. I want to have pretty lips all day. So this is not a lipstick formulation that I will be buying more of. I'm sure that I will get a lot of use out of this color just because I think that the shade is so pretty, and I just love that purpley, dusty, mauvey color. I think it's gorgeous, but unfortunately, I think that the formulation of this is just a little bit lacking. I think you can get a much better wear time, a much better feel out of something like the Revlon Super Lustrous lipsticks. I think that those are amazing. There's just different drugstore lipsticks, the CoverGirl Lip Perfections. I just find that those are just a little bit better and around the same price. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and you found this helpful. I know that NYX, like I said, has released a lot of different products. These are the two that really caught my eye. I know they have a contour palette out now, which I haven't heard great things about. They have a concealer kit, which again is kind of heard very in the middle things about. I might go to Ulta and pick up a couple of things, but for those of you who were interested in the blush and the lipstick, I hope you found this helpful. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.